What's going on, guys? This is your boy DJ Just Jay with Just Dimes ENT, your humble host of the Soto You Dig. Guys, I'd like to thank you guys for joining us for the show. What we're going to do here is we're going to illustrate another story that I feel like has to do with some error in parenting. And like I said, I believe that it is very important for us to take parenting as a huge responsibility, not to take it as a chore. We need to actually care about these children and stuff like that. As you know, we are advocates first for children on the Soto You Dig. That is what we specialize here. And what I'm going to continue to do is illustrate stories that point out where bad parenting is and why I believe that fathers are important. Okay? So what we have going on here is the lady that is on the screen. It's a rather small, short story, but I'm going to tell you guys about this person that you see on my screen to my right-hand side. So here we go. A mother whose two children were killed in Georgia in a Georgia wreck is facing DUI and vehicular homicide charges. Now, her name is Tiffany Grubb, as you can see on the screen. She is from Florida, but she was in Georgia and ended up in a car accident. So there's a lot of things about this story that we don't know that I would love to hear if we could find out more, but I wasn't able to find out a whole lot. That's why I say this is going to be a short story. So if you guys are familiar with her, her name is Tiffany Grubb. Tiffany spelled traditionally, Grubb, G-R-U-B-B. She is age 24. The Georgia State Patrol told news outlets on Thursday that 24-year-old Tiffany Grubb of West Palm Beach, Florida, was driving on a suspended license in Lumpkin County on Wednesday. There's a whole lot wrong with that already, and I'll say this off top. If that person's license is suspended, it was probably suspended for a reason. They definitely should not be driving. And for a person to neglect the fact that they weren't qualified enough to be able to have a license and then to turn around and drive, I think that just makes it more egregious, in my opinion. Okay, so let's keep going. Authorities said she failed to maintain her lane and her vehicle overturned several times. So it did like a major league roll, and it ended up not only harming her, but it ended up actually killing her children, which Grubb's 2-year-old and 4-year-old children were killed in the crash. The patrol says neither child was properly restrained at the time of the wreck, which is that's incredibly sad. Like I said, it's one thing for you to go out on your own and go do something that's irresponsible, but it's another thing to turn around and involve children. And like I said, that's part of the responsibility that we're talking about, that we want to instill in the black community, that we want to instill in our mothers, because they primarily have custody of the children. So we want to continue to speak to that group, speak to the leaders of the black community, as Barack Obama said, the backbone. So those people, and if they don't want to be the heads of the household and be held accountable for the things that we speak on, then we suggest let the fathers step in and let the fathers be the head of the household, as we always have been traditionally, right? Now, Tiffany Grubb at this point is charged with a DUI, 2 counts of first-degree vehicular homicide, and 2 counts of endangering a child under 14 while driving under the influence. Okay, now it's unclear at this point if she has a lawyer, but like I said, I don't think it's even necessary for her to have a lawyer. I mean, I know it's her lawful right to have one, but like I said, I don't think it matters, because like I said, you know, she put her children in danger, and I just don't think that there's very much excuse in defending for something like that. So let me give you guys an idea about what we're looking at as far as the charges. Okay. Now, vehicular homicide is a crime that involves the death of a person other than the driver as a result of either criminally negligent or murderous operation of a motor vehicle. That's vehicular homicide. In cases of criminal negligence, the defendant is commonly charged with unintentional vehicular manslaughter. Vehicular homicide is similar to the offense in some countries of dangerous driving causing death. The victim may either be a person not in the car with the offending motorist, such as a pedestrian, cyclist, or another motorist, or a passenger in the vehicle with the offender. Okay, now in the United States, let me see if I can get to that real quick. The definition and penalties of vehicular manslaughter in the United States vary by state. Of course, a lot of us know that. All states except Alaska, Montana, and Arizona have vehicular homicide statutes. The law have the effect of making a vehicle a potentially deadly weapon to allow for easier conviction and more severe penalties. In states without such statutes, defendants can still be charged with manslaughter or murder in some situations. In the model penal code, there is no distinction between vehicular homicide and vehicular homicides that involve negligence. Instead, both are included in the overall category of negligent homicide. Now, as far as sentencing, a study by professors at Dartmouth College and Harvard University found that those convicted of vehicular homicide are given, on average, shorter sentences that have been found guilty of other types of homicide. Excuse me, I'll read that again. A study by professors at Dartmouth College and Harvard University found that those convicted of vehicular homicide are given, on average, shorter sentences than those found guilty of other types of homicide. The study found that the gender of the offender does not statistically affect the length of the sentence, but race does. That's why I wanted to point that part out. It says the study found that the gender of the offender does not statistically affect the length of the sentence, but race does. The identity of the victim is a more important predictor of sentencing length, with longer sentences given to offenders in cases where the victim was female and/or had no violent criminal record. Some states, such as Minnesota, have statutes allowing for a charge of vehicular homicide if an unborn child is killed or injured by a motorist. Okay? Now, as far as DUI sentencing, which is a second charge that you'll have to deal with, okay?
Purchase your tracks today.
Being convicted of or pleading guilty to an impaired driving charge will lead to a variety of penalties and sentences ranging from license suspension to incarceration. But it's important to keep in mind that the criminal sanctions against the driver are wholly separate from those taken at the administrative level. For instance, refusing to submit to a BAC, a blood alcohol content test, will result in an automatic suspension of your driver's license in most cases, even if actual impairment is not affirmatively established. So that means that just because you refuse the test, you could actually lose your license. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. So, DUI sentencing, criminal and administrative penalties. After a person is convicted or pleads guilty to a DUI or DWI, driving while intoxicated offense, the appropriate legal punishment is determined at the sentencing phase. A number of different kinds of penalties may be imposed on a person convicted of DUI, including incarceration in jail, shorter term, incarceration in prison, which is a longer term, suspension or revocation of a driver's license, use of vehicle ignition interlock devices, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or not, which means you have to blow into the device to get it to start to make sure that you're not intoxicated, vehicle impoundment, drug alcohol education or rehab, community services, probation, scram bracelets, or suspension sentences. So there's a lot that really goes into that. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the actual news clip that came from this story. But before I do that, let me go ahead and give you the fair usage real quick. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107.
A heartbreaking story out of North Georgia. A Florida mom is accused of crashing her car while driving under the influence. Her two small children died in that wreck. The single car crash happened last night in Lumpkin County. State troopers say the car flipped over several times. 24-year-old Tiffany Grubb is charged with 2 counts of vehicular homicide and DUI. There are a number of other charges as well. Her children were 2 and 4 years old.
Well, 6 years ago tonight, Hannah True Love.
Okay, let me get you guys the other story, and then we're going to go ahead and get up out of here.
Well, just a horrible story out of Georgia here, where 2 toddlers from Florida die in a crash, and troopers believe that their deaths were completely preventable. Georgia State Patrol says 24-year-old Tiffany Grubb did not properly restrain her 2 and 4-year-old children before driving drunk. Troopers say she failed to maintain her lane and flipped her SUV several times. It's just north of Atlanta. Grubb is charged with DUI, vehicular homicide, and driving on a suspended license. This brings up the issue of kids and car seat safety. One organization is actually offering to make sure that your car seat is fitted and installed correctly. Safe Kids, it's called. It's holding 5 free car seat check events in Tampa next month. You can find out times and locations at safekids.org. Well, just a horrible story.
All right, thank you very much. And again, guys, I want to remind you guys that, not only with this being a mother, but she's relatively young. I mean, she's like in her mid-20s. And I mean, not from the facial picture. I mean, she definitely looks like she's quite a bit older than that, but I don't know. But I don't think that matters a whole lot. It's just my personal opinion. But at the same time, I think it is highly irresponsible for us to not only do things that could harm others, but then to intentionally put your kids in harm's way, I think makes it even worse. I don't know what her motivation was behind this. I don't know who she was going to see. I mean, there's probably about 1,000 scenarios as to what led up to this, but at the same time, I don't think there should be any I don't think that there should be any mercy when it comes to when they sentence this woman, when they charge this woman, when they give her jail sentence. I don't think that there should be any sympathy for this person, right? That's my 2 cents about this. Thank you guys for listening to the show. This is your host of the evening, DJ Just Jay. We will be doing more shows coming up. Like I said, this is going to be a really quick story. I just wanted to put that out there to let you guys know what actually happened. And like I say, if anybody has any additional information of this story, I couldn't find her social media. I couldn't find anything anywhere. I don't know when her actual court date is coming up or anything like that. But if you guys are familiar with this story, like I say, Tiffany Grubb comes out of Florida, but the crash actually happened in Georgia. So if you guys happen to find any information on it, feel free to let me know. Email me at thesodayoudig@gmail.com, which is down there in the bottom right-hand corner. So we're going to go ahead and continue to bring you guys more stories. You guys stay tuned. If you guys need anything from me, let me know. Love you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next show. All right. Peace.